Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
South Australia is a festival state and Adelaide's the nation's only UNESCO city of music. But it's not just the performers we have to thank for these accolades. Our state is also home to vibrant creative workforce, often hidden behind the scenes. Professionals responsible for bringing great performances to life. Today we're speaking to audio-visual technician, software developer and visual artist Frazer about how he developed his niche skill set and what it's like working at Adelaide music venue, The Lab. How are you this morning?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Welcome, Frazer. So good to have you here. Can you tell us a bit about your job and what a normal day looks like for you at the lab?
Yeah, it's quite hard to describe a normal day because it sort of doesn't exist. It's a combination of corporate style things, so like answering emails and then working with interstate companies. They come in and they want to provide like immersive experiences to like do a product launch, or they want to like have like a meeting with a whole bunch of people to talk about their new strategy for the year or something. So we kind of work with them to create that experience for them based on other media companies that are providing video content or 3D assets or something like that. So you got that kind of component of the job. Another component of the job is working with like music. So that's like interstate, international and local artists, bands, electronic music groups, and all sorts of other stuff as well. That's kind of more your sort of traditional live music, like bump in, bump out, that kind of stuff, which has been kind of like that's not my strong suit. So it's been really good to learn a lot of that, working with a lot of cool people there as well. It's kind of hard to describe like the typical day because there's also other parts of the business. So there's like, you've got the lab, but then you've also got like this theater area. So that's on level 1. And then that's more kind of like festivals and things like public events. Mm-hmm. And then, touching on the software development stuff, which is what I studied, it's kind of like putting different components that are only just coming into existence now, like AI art. And people have, for instance, we had an event just recently, which was like, they wanted to do this like live audience participation while they were doing the presentation. So it's kind of like using different web services and APIs and connecting it all into the experience. And like, we're definitely moving it more in that direction. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's a super short answer, but it just sounds like just a lot of stuff happening, which really suits my personality and like, I guess my skill set, because I'm quite a generalist. So
it sounds like it's a very, every day is different for you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So Frazer, how did you find yourself on this career path? Like, where did this interest start?
Yeah, it's I'll try and condense the story into sort of short. So probably like the key points would be I dropped out of school, high school wasn't doing it for me. I just did parkour.
Cool.
Love parkour. Did it for like about 10 plus years. That was just like my main focus in life. And from there, it became like videos, because like parkour videos. So that's a lot of where my creativity kind of like came into play. And then from there, I also did like manual labor work as well. So that's kind of like constructing temporary installations and things. And then when I turned 30, just before COVID, I was like, I kind of want to not just bum around a lot. I want to get like official kind of on paper, like I have some skills. So that's why I went to TAFE and studied software development. And then, as I was studying, I found this group, Lab Rats, which is part of the lab. It's like this arts collective group with heaps of different people, like scientists and digital artists and like textile artists and like all different ages from all different walks of life, which is really cool. And then as I finished study and I was doing Lab Rats and they were like, do you want to work here? And I was like, absolutely. And then, that's how I ended up there. And all of the experience and skills that I've developed up until then started coming in really handy there. So
yeah, cool. So like, as you say, there's so many different skills that you know, different fields of everything. You're an AV technician, a software developer, a visual artist, and a parkour master. But these are all very diverse skill sets. What did you study to get into all of this?
Yeah, so I studied software development at the Adelaide City campus of TAFE, and I did the Cert 4, and then I did the diploma. So
yeah, cool.
Yeah, nice.
So what was the main skills that you've developed through your time at TAFE SA, and how are they applicable at your current role at the lab?
Probably like sort of like an offshoot skill that I developed while at TAFE, which was perhaps not directly related to software development was like time management. It's really hard to do really complex things and like context switch between complex things like all the time, which is sort of what you're doing when you're studying software development. You're kind of learning a little bit about web development, and then you're learning about like architecture, and then you're learning about project management, and then you're sort of like jumping in and out of all these like quite complex topics. So that kind of soft skill of like, how do I manage my time and like all these competing priorities? That was actually quite challenging. So that I found that actually quite helped, because like at the lab, there's a lot of competing priorities between different events and things. So that was pretty cool. And then, yeah, probably more directly related to the course was just a nice, well-rounded knowledge of just how technology works. It's kind of like, I didn't really, like, I know the internet exists and I know computers exist. How does it work? And like, what's going on? And API and like all these things flying around, and I use my phone and like, so that course like really gave me this like well-rounded, I guess, how things work in this modern day and age. Not saying I'm an expert, but like it just gave me that foundation that I'm like really confident now that I can be like, yes, I know how that works, or I would know how to figure that out.
Absolutely. So you mentioned before that you dropped out of high school. So what made a vet course the right fit for you?
Probably a couple of things. One was the shortness of the course. Yeah. So I quite like that. Like with uni, it's kind of like, I feel like you're a little bit locked into doing a large number of years. Yeah. And being like slightly older, like I didn't want to spend like 5 years studying something. I was like, like I feel like I have a bit of life experience that I can complement with like skills rather than starting from fresh. Yeah, and I just kind of like the atmosphere. It was just a little bit more people from all walks of life kind of thing.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, the vet courses are great because they are shorter. A 5-year commitment is huge when you're sort of looking at from the start, you know? That would be a definite benefit of a vet course.
So just wondering, have your studies given you a leg up in your career? Can you tell us why?
Number one would be definitely like just confidence that I know what I'm talking about. Just having a sort of like official, like, I've gone through all the standards and like I've gone through just how things work. That's been really cool. And just meeting a lot of people who know what they're talking about and just sort of seeing how things work.
Awesome.
So obviously COVID was a crappy couple of years for South Australia, but we do still have a great live music scene. Do you think you found your fit as far as being at the lab for the foreseeable future?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Great. It's really
Should I expand on that?
Short and simple. I like it. So how have you found the SA music and event scene? Are there people locally you can collaborate with, learn from, or look up to?
Yeah, for sure. I've actually been a part of a few little festivals and like bush doffs and things recently. Yeah. So that's more in the visual component, but having more of this live events experience that I've been getting at the lab, I can kind of understand a little bit more how things come together, and I can like participate in that and help that come together. Like, it was part of a festival in Port Adelaide called Sonar. It was like this cool kind of like dark mofo looking kind of thing in a warehouse.
Fun. Yeah, cool.
And it was part of a bush stuff recently down south, and
well, next time there's a bush doof, just let us know because we'll be there. Love a bush doof.
No worries.
I was going to ask as well, do you take any of the equipment home? Do you ever sneak home a little laser light or any cool visuals to put in your bedroom?
We won't tell.
What I like to do is stay after work and then just play around with things, because there's a lot of like this technology is like quite complicated and really expensive. So like finding time to use it is quite like, that doesn't really happen. So after work, I'm like, I've got all these screens and like sensors and like software, and it's just like no one knows how to use it, or like no one has much experience with it. So like, I get to play with it, and then I get to really like learn how it works, which helps me then use it better. So
we actually went to a gig at the lab for Mattia. She's one of our, she's our sound engineer here, and they had all the visuals up on the walls there, and it was incredible.
It was insane. It was amazing.
It's an amazing immersive experience when you go there. You're not just there for the music, like it's a whole vibe and show.
Yeah, that's usually what I guess that's what we try to do. I guess because a lot of our team, like we all have our skills, but we have quite a large like Venn diagram crossover. So we're always trying to like bring the visual component that mixes in with the music component that mixes in with like the live event component, and you're trying to like feed it into like expectations and like, because like when you walk into the lab, it's like this dingy kind of corridor with like all red lights. You're like, oh, what's going to happen?
Where am I going?
Yeah,
right now?
and then you walk in and it's just like, whoa, you're just surrounded by screens. So like you can really kind of like build anticipation over the night as well. Like what we like to do with gigs is like with the support act, you kind of have it not too bright. It's just like a little bit, and then when it comes to the main act, then you switch over to the like heavier visuals, and then you can like change the lighting setup, and like it's really cool. You get to like really build cool experiences for like audiences.
Yeah, it was great.
I find it's awesome as well how the visuals are like sort of sync up to the music, and it's all just works so succinct.
Yeah, that might be a good chance to bring up several programs that we use. So one is like Resumaybe, so that's more like a VJing program. You can do quite a lot of cool stuff with that. We use that as our sort of like main screen outputting, but then another program we like to use is called Touch Designer, which is, it's kind of a hard program to describe. It kind of mixes like software development with live inputs with visual and audio components. So, and it's like a node-based editing program. So you can kind of like plug things into things which you wouldn't normally think or even be able to do. So like you can actually take like, say, a visual reference and turn that into audio. And that audio you could turn into a 3D object, which you can then display on the screen. So it's actually like say you have like a live webcam input, you could actually turn that into sound, which you're hearing, and then you could turn that into a 3D object, which is on the screens, which you can see, and then you can like manipulate that by just moving around in the space. Like there's so much.
Crazy.
It's so like next level. Like when you're doing it, you're like, is this the Matrix or like, yeah, it's crazy.
Which pill do I take?
I feel like I've had the plot line to Inception or something. Listening to that, it sounds so complicated. And obviously, you know everything you're doing. But what's the very best gig you've done or project you've worked on?
Probably, like, honestly, it's just a gig I did recently, which is that bush off that I did, like, down south at Alma's Hem. It was just, with like, it was my friend's birthday, and he put on the bush off, and then like just a lot of other friends there, and we were just like collaborating with like, we had like projectors going and like shooting them into trees, and we had like like we were all doing different DJ sets, and like it was just really fun. Like that's kind of sort of what live events and music and art should be, as far as I'm concerned.
That sounds like a lot of fun, definitely. If someone is listening today who has similar interests to you and would like to work somewhere like the lab, what would be your advice?
It might be a bit cliche, but like follow your heart. I definitely, like, my life journey so far has sort of taken me on like random paths where it's like I don't really know where this is going, but I just trust that like I really like making videos. I'm going to make parkour videos. I'm just going to do this. And then I really like software development. I like coding. I'm just going to study it. And it just kind of, by following that sort of rather than perhaps what you're supposed to do, that's kind of led me to there. So like maybe not everyone should work at the lab, but like maybe you should find, like maybe if you follow that, you'll find your own lab place to work out.
Do something you're passionate about, you're saying. Yeah, cool.
Fresh 92.7 presents Resumaybe, kickstarting your career with fresh jobs.
Yes, it is time to play Resumaybe again. Now, the way this game works, Frazer, is you're about to read out a skill that's in front of you. That skill only belongs to one of us. The other two are lying little rats, and you just have to pick out who's telling the truth. So, what is the skill today?
I can rig a rowing boat.
I can rig a rowing. I can go first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So did rowing all throughout school. Now I coach it, get paid for it. Little side hustle gig. Just teaching kids how to row and rig their boats for them. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds pretty obvious if I'm going to say so myself. But I actually, when I was growing up, I was a scout. So I started with the Joeys, and I went to Cubs, and then I was a scout. And as part of that, we did a lot of rowing and also like heaps of outdoor activities. So we learned how to do all your bloody knots and all this stuff, and learned how to dock it.
Do you want to pry with any questions? Like, what kind of knots were you doing?
Hey, what do you
Tell us one knot.
Heaps, you know.
Yeah, that's not one. Tell us a knot name. And you can't say standard knot.
You're not meant to be asking the questions. Frazer is.
Frazer, please, inquire.
Why is this your skill?
What does it mean to rig a rowing boat? Like, what are you rigging?
You're tying it up, you know?
Just to a post? Or
All right, guys, you've got me. This isn't my skill. All right, Callum, tell your lies.
I'll tell you what. So I was in Switzerland and it was crazy. It's one of my favorite travel stories. But I was in Switzerland and the train, my ticket got cancelled. And I was like by the riverside and everything. And there were these rowing teams. And the train got cancelled, but I didn't have enough money to get another train. I'd blown it all. So for a bit of cash in hand job, so I can get on the next train to go elsewhere and meet up with my friends in another country, I helped this old man with his rowing boat and, made it with him. And then a part of that was like learning how to rig it. But it was just like a cash in hand job just to get me by for like a week. I stayed there with him in a cabin lodge and then went off somewhere else.
That's a very specific story. I mean, that lends itself to it perhaps being true.
Yeah. You're saying you built a whole rowing boat with an old man in Switzerland?
Yes, exactly right.
Well, that doesn't
His name was Mr. Parker. And
Mr. Parker in Switzerland?
Yeah, well, he was American Switzerland. But so pretty much like just stayed there and did this like cash in hand job, built the boat with him. He did most of the manual work, but I learned how to rig the boat. I didn't know that much, but rigging the boat was something I learned.
The only thing I believe from that story is that you blew all your money.
You can ask more questions, I don't mind. It's a weird story, I know.
There's a lot of things going on in that story.
Yeah, there's a lot happening. Yeah.
Where were your friends?
Where were my friends? Italy, in Florence. So
Okay.
it was just down south, so I just had to get a train down there, made a bit of money, got there in the end.
I believe everything except for you built a whole rowing boat while waiting for your train.
Well, Mr. Parker did most of the rowing boat. I just did the rigging. So rigging is just when you put the metal gates on and everything. You just do the top layer. So I just helped out with that. And it was a cash job. Like, he didn't expect me to do much. And did a bit of cooking around the house as well.
Okay, I believe you.
So you think Callum's telling the truth?
Sure, yes.
All right, Davo, do you want to reveal who was telling the truth?
Yes, I certainly can. The person telling the truth today is Tom.
Yeah, it's me. I coach rowing, so I know how to rig their boats.
There you go. What does that mean, rigger? rowing
So
boat?
like on top of the boat, you have riggers that you put the oars into. So you have to like clip them into the boat. You take them on and off. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Cool skill to have, right?
Well done.
Thanks so much for joining us this morning, Frazer. To find out more and explore your options with vocational education and training from nationally recognised qualifications, apprenticeships to earn while you learn, or flexible short courses, head to skills.sa.gov.au. Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure.
No worries.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.